Well, it's always interesting because every single time that there is a big name wide receiver on the market, either in free agency or maybe there's a team that is reportedly considering releasing or wanting to trade on the trade block, it appears the Buffalo Bills are always betting favorites to land these names. How many times, especially a couple of years back, where all of us were doing streams with a DeAndre Hopkins watch party because Schefter and Legacy Media would come out and say, oh, man, the Buffalo Bills, they are dead set on landing this guy. Well, there is absolutely no change for this offseason. And somebody pointed this out to me, which I thought was funny. And I didn't even believe it once they did. But no, this is not clickbait at all. The Buffalo Bills, as you can see, are currently betting favorites for Davante Adams at plus 250. Now, we're seeing Pittsburgh Steelers, we're seeing LA Chargers, we're seeing Washington Commanders and San Francisco 49ers as well on this list. And for all we know, guys, right, betting favorites mean absolutely nothing. Are the Buffalo Bills truly that much in need of a wide receiver that is currently 32 years old? Sure, he had a great season last year. Surprisingly enough, he still ended up cracking 1,000 yards between the Raiders and between the New York Jets. And I do think that he still has a couple of years left as far as his full production is concerned. But I'm not so sure how I feel about this. So on today's episode, we are not only going to be looking at what Davante Adams would cost the Buffalo Bills, we're also going to discuss, first off, would Brandon Beane even be interested at all? Is this guy going to be a piece into this offense? Because as many of us know, I feel like we all joke around about how Joe Brady just does not like wide receiver number ones, does not like veteran wide receiver number ones. And every single player in that position is nothing but a glorified role player for this team. So very excited to unpack this today as we start off with his market value and we have these conversations. Guys, if you are currently watching the replay of this video, I highly recommend that you subscribe to the channel and turn on bell notifications because I would love for you to join these live streams. We have a great live chat community that tunes in twice a day, Monday through Friday, and I'm always looking to extend and expand that community by itself. I did want to remind everybody that all of these odds can be found on BetUS. They're currently matching 150% of your first deposit all the way up to $2,000, 125% of your second and your third, as long as you use code YouTube150. Shout out to BetUS for sponsoring this channel. And shout out to everybody in the chat, guys. Smash that like button for me if you haven't had an opportunity of doing so far. We want 150 like buttons smashed prior to the end of this video. All right, so go on ahead, smash that like button for me, and let's get in on the news. So Davante Adams, how much would he cost? Let's take a look at what this guy has been able to put on the table. And I'll tell you what, surprisingly enough, folks, he's really not as expensive as many of us would assume. I'm still not the biggest fan of this. I hate to be a spoiler as into why I think the Bills need to go on ahead and find an entire different sort of wide receiver. However, it doesn't hurt to kick the tires, especially since it is well into the offseason. And this is according to Spot Track, guys, right? Now, we could see this deal or market value be significantly less, maybe a little bit more. It just depends on what team is interested in taking this on. Now, everyone's going to be like, Dan, he's on the Jets. What are you talking about? He still has a couple of years on his deal. Well, as I'm sure many of us have assumed, the second that Aaron Rodgers was released from the New York Jets, news started spiraling that Aaron Glenn and the new regime over in New York is more than likely going to move away from Mr. Davante Adams. And it helps out because when they ended up making the trade, look at that. They have a potential out in 2025 where the dead cap would only be about $8.3 million. And I think it's pretty clear at this point that the New York Jets are very much in a retooling area. And we all remember that Davante Adams was brought over to the New York Jets exclusively for Aaron Rodgers, thinking that they would be able to turn the momentum in the 2024 season. Obviously, failed experiment. I wouldn't say it had anything to do with Davante Adams. I think it had everything to do with the coaching staff, the ownership, top to bottom, just dumpster fire organization. However, this is what it would look like. So now we're seeing a base salary of 2025 and 2026 right in the $35 million. But do keep in mind, if indeed he is released, new contract is going to be put out, folks. An absolute new contract, no issue whatsoever. As you can see, he's not really seeing massive bonuses by any stretch of the imagination. He has a 510,000 roster bonus, 100,000, 510, 100,000. So if he does get released by the New York Jets, which I genuinely believe that he is going to, it is a brand new contract, brand new negotiation period. Let's go on ahead and check out exactly how much this man would cost for each and every single one of them. Anyway, this is what we have. $13.6 million. Average annual salary, 2 years, $27 million. And that's not that bad if you were to ask me. Now, some of the red flags we have to look at, right? Like, let's take a look at this, right? He's 32 years old. He would be 33 by the time that the playoffs were to roll around. So something to consider here. He was born December 24th, 1992. So at the end of the 2025 season, he's going to be 33 years old. The same age as Dan Mitchell. Look at that. Who were to know that Davante Adams and I are around the exact same age? Absolutely insane. But that's the market value. Something for you to consider. Even if you were not a Bills fan and you were interested to see, oh, I wonder if my team would be intrigued in bringing him into the wide receiver core. He's going to be looking for some options, and I'm very curious to take a look. Now, he did ultimately end up having COVID-19 injuries. He had COVID-19 week 7 through 8 in 2021 while he was in Green Bay. I don't think that this is updated because he was missing a couple of games with a phantom hamstring injury with the Las Vegas Raiders prior to being traded over to the New York Jets. But that's what we're looking at here. And then let's also take a look at the statistics. What do we have here, right? In 2024, and this is including right over here at 32 years old, he still played 14 games, missed a couple when it came into his phantom hamstring injury. And then he was traded over to the New York Jets. He had 792 snaps, 85 receptions for 1,063 yards. Well over 1,000 yards receiving when it comes into it. And then 8 touchdowns right here. And then obviously that massive year in Green Bay when he went for 18 receiving touchdowns. So here's my take on Davante Adams. And this is kind of my thought process. Would I be pissed? So would I be pissed off, man, if the Buffalo Bills signed Davante Adams? No. But would I be thrilled? Like, would I think that that was the best possible use of our limited funds going into 2025 free agency and the new financial year? No, I would not be thrilled about it because, quite frankly, I think that we could spend our money in more useful areas, right? Like areas that I think this team so desperately needs to address. And that just so happens to be our defense, right? Edge rusher is what I'm going to be looking for. I would much rather spend a damn bag on an edge rusher, right? Like send the house for Myles Garrett, send the house for Max Crosby. I think with Davante Adams would be a bit redundant because I look at the way Joe Brady runs offenses, right? And he looks at wide receivers as glorified role players. Like, think about it, right? Like, we have a slot guy out of Khalil Shakir. He is our speed guy. He is our route runner. And he's the contact balance guy. He's the yak king of this overall squad. We have a Keon Coleman who is a 50-50 ball sort of guy who, yes, I was disappointed in his back half production in 2024, but that's the role that he plays for this defense. I think that Dalton Kincaid also sort of throws out there that route running capability. I'm not completely out on Dalton Kincaid because with Josh Allen, he just didn't really show a lot of chemistry with him in 2024 either. But the biggest necessity that I think this team needs is speed on the perimeter. And I love Davante Adams. He will go down as one of the best wide receivers in this era of football, if you were to ask me, right? But I just think that it would be redundant being on the outside. Go on ahead, roll the dice with me, and give us a young guy out of the draft that runs a sub 4.3, 4.4 40 that can get that consistent vertical separation. Because Adams only ran a 4.5 40 back in the day when he was a rookie in this league. So it's hard to say exactly how fast he is now. I would like to think that he would be right around that area, but I just think that it's not particularly what the Buffalo Bills are looking for as far as a resume and or a skill set I feel like that it really wouldn't help out much. So if you were to ask me, I'm good on the Davante Adams signing, although that I think many of us can agree $13.6 million per year for a 2-year contract for a 32-year-old, very high ceiling sort of wide receiver sounds attractive. I'm good. Save the money on an edge rusher, but I wouldn't be doing my job, of course, unless I gave you guys what I believe or what I know is the rumors. And the rumors, of course, just so happen to be that the Buffalo Bills are betting favorites to land this guy. All right, folks, everybody watching the replay of this, this is normally the time of the show where I go into the chat and we start having an open conversation about the topic. So if, again, you are watching the replay version of this and you want to join our live chat community, I highly recommend that you subscribe and turn on bell notifications, baby, because I make my shows a part of the chat. We absolutely love it. I recently did a mock draft with the Browns, and I gave the Browns Matt Milano, and the Browns gave me Myles Garrett. Now, I don't know if they want more, but the trade was accepted. Here is the interesting part about the Browns and Myles Garrett, man, is that this Browns team is going to have a very difficult time paying some of these players that could potentially be sent over to the Cleveland Browns. I think that a trade package for Myles Garrett is likely not even going to include a player. It's just going to be draft picks and draft compensation because they are in an absolute mess when it comes in to their overall cap space. And a lot of it has to do with the Deshaun Watson contract is plaguing them. It's going to be a draft compensation. However, I do appreciate the love. Then we will see. We have Relic 187 coming in. Relic, what's up, man? I hope you're having a wonderful day. Happy Monday. Happy President's Day, ladies and gents. I would rather invest in T. Higgins than anything. See, here's the deal, right? I also feel like T. Higgins would be redundant of what we are looking for in a wide receiver, right? Like he also runs a 40 about the exact same as Keon Coleman. He's not very fast. He's a 50-50 ball kind of guy. He basically has the same skill set as Keon Coleman. And what I think is that what Joe Brady is trying to look for is an entire different skill set, a skill set that we don't have on this team. And that is a wide receiver that can play on the outside consistently, but also wins vertically. Speed, right? And Higgins just doesn't necessarily have that. And what makes it even funnier, I'm not going to lie to you, don't be surprised if the Cincinnati Bengals do this man dirty once again here in a couple of days and franchise tag his ass again. Do not be surprised if Cincinnati pulls that off. But I don't see T. Higgins being a landing gear for us right at this point. I don't want to spend any money in free agency on any top tier wide receiver. Said it. I will continue to say it. It's got to be a bargain bin guy. And keep in mind, right? I know that everyone's pissed off about this, but do keep in mind, we signed Curtis Samuel to some like 3-year deal. Now, I think we're going to restructure his contract, but we're stuck with this dude. We're going to have Curtis Samuel back. I'm hoping that Curtis Samuel can establish chemistry because he was the bottom receiver when it came into Josh Allen throwing catchable balls to all season long. And I'm not disrespecting my QB. He's the MVP of this league, baby. I'm going to continue to give Josh Allen his praises, but they obviously just didn't have much chemistry. So we're hoping that his speed, his route running can really translate into 2025. But regardless, give me a speedy wide receiver out of the draft. Only spend free agency dollars on a big name if it has to do with our defensive line. That's what I got. That's my take. Marie is saying, do we actually want him, though? Marie, I do not. I do not. And it's funny because I feel like this is a trend every single time that we see a big name wide receiver potentially hitting the market. I feel like the Buffalo Bills are almost always betting favorites for some odd reason. I think it's hysterical. I don't really see a need because we need a different sort of skill set of a wide receiver. And he's 32 years old. I'm good on that. I'm fine with rolling the dice on older players, specifically in the trenches. I can get away with that. I'm fine to roll the dice on players in the trenches that are above 30. But when it comes into like role players or skill position players, nah, I'm good. Right? Like, give me the sweet spot of like 25, 28, 29 max and go from there. Signing over 30 at all skill position players is always a gamble. And 9 times out of 10, it doesn't work out for you. Look at that. Last Second Sports. Hollywood Brown makes a ton of sense for the Bills. Inexpensive and has speed. Well, Jesse, what's going on, my friend? I saw that he was also open, and we're talking about Davante Adams here, that he was open to go to the San Francisco 49ers. I think that is very intriguing. I also think that that's a upgrade from Deebo Samuel, especially since he was upset with that current organization. It's funny with Hollywood Brown, right? Because it would be something that the Buffalo Bills would do, right? It's not the sexy pick, right? Like, we really haven't had a sexy move in a while since I think we ended up bringing in Von Miller, right? Or when we brought in Stephon Diggs during the offseason. But this is entirely in line with how this front office operates. We would bring in a low risk, high reward in a Hollywood Brown who has the speed on the outside. He would be able to help us out. Man. I think that we can make that happen. Havana SCP, Bean every year, we want speed. Bean every year doesn't get speed. So tired of Bean wasting draft picks. I wouldn't be so hard on Brandon Bean because Brandon Bean did exactly what he wanted to do this previous offseason. He said that his number one priority, or his two top priorities, were yards after the catch and a guy that can come down with 50-50 balls. And I think that we ultimately ended up addressing that, right? Like, we went from one of the worst yards after the catch teams to one of the best yards after the catch teams in only a year, right? And then as far as our 50-50 guy, as much as we like to criticize Keon Coleman's back half of the season in 2024, our 50-50 ball situation went up tremendously. We don't know, right? Like, we don't know specifically what is wrong with this team until the final game of the season. And I think what proved it, offensively at least, and I mean, it's hard to say that it was even a problem. I mean, folks, like, we witnessed the most productive statistical season in Buffalo franchise history. Like, we were the number one scoring offense in the NFL, playoffs included. I mean, it's nuts, right? Like, if we were to run back the entire roster offensively that we did last year, with our offensive line coming back healthy, like with the run game, with Josh Allen, with all those dudes, I don't think that we would see much of a change. Any sort of speed that we can add right to this offense would be a cherry on top. My biggest concern is obviously pass rush, which we have not had since 2013. Give me an edge rusher that can get 10 plus sacks. All right. Like, we haven't seen this since 2013. That is nuts, folks. That is crazy. That is 12 years of no 10 plus rusher, 10 plus sack pass rusher. 12 years. That is wild. All right. That is a big necessity that needs to be done. That's why I'm adamant about going out and rolling the dice and spending money on Max Crosby, on Myles Garrett, on Trey Hendrickson, whatever. That's what we need, is pass rush. Pass rush, pass rush, pass rush. My cutoff for NFL YouTubers, as soon as they are 30, I unsub. Wow. It's the cutoff for YouTubers, man. I'm aging out. I'm unking over here, dude. What about AJ Epinesa, a 2025 first, a 2026 first, 2027 third? That could become a second depending on Garrett's production. Also, the Bills swap picks 56 and Browns pick 33. I don't think that we really would have to send a player over for the Browns, right? I feel like Epinesa would make sense. I really, really do. And I think that 2 firsts and a third probably could get it done. Third would probably have to go in 2026, though. But I genuinely believe, say, for example, we did a 2025 first, a 2026 first, and a 2026 third. I don't think that we would need to walk away from AJ Epinesa, but I'd be fine to send him off because I think that would be crazy. And what did Hollywood Brown do for Kansas City? So he was not out there all season because he ended up having a shoulder injury that kept him out from training camp all the way until like the final 2 games of the season. So the Buffalo Bills really love rolling the dice on players that they think that they can rehab and bring back. All right. I personally think that Hollywood Brown would be solid for the Bills, right? Like, he's fast. And of course, we hear that Josh Allen's interested in working with him I'd be open to it. I would be really open to it. Adams will be a 49er, and I'm not excited about it. It's just another aging player on an old team. I mean, listen, like I've said a million times, me and my boy Jesse, I'm not so much concerned about age when it's in the trenches or at the quarterback position. But I am desperately and I am significantly concerned with age when it comes into anything from the skill position side of things. Corners and wide receivers and running backs. If you were above the age of 30, I'm a bit nervous when it comes into new contracts that could potentially come on. And we have Hollywood Brown is fragile. Ugh. I mean, listen, I would be fine to bring in Hollywood Brown. For a cheap free agency contract, but still address it in the second or the third round and find another speedster in the draft. I really, really would. Derek Harmon, really good defensive lineman from Oregon, is projected second round pick. Played great at the national championship Ohio State team. We have Jay. Jay, have no fear, man. We're going to be unpacking a lot of draft prospects once free agency starts unpacking. Sucks to see Neighbors waste his talent in New York. I'd love to see him here in Buffalo. Oh, man. I saw Neighbors actually hit an X the other day, and he was sitting there hoping that Stafford and Cooper Kupp go over there for a package deal. But listen, it's a dumpster fire over in New York. That's for damn sure. I know this isn't draft talk, but if he falls, Jahdae Barron is a dog, game changer in the secondary, a Brian Branch sort of guy. Jahdae Barron. Hold up. Let me check out this guy real fast. Jahdae Barron, cornerback, Texas Longhorns. All right, man. Listen, I'm going to have to go on ahead and take a look at him. Where's his current draft grade right at now? Is he in the second round, third round sort of guy, or is he like a first sort of dude? Because that's a different question. I do love Azareye'h Thomas out of Florida State as well. I do think that he would be a wonderful CB2 for this team. But then again, one thing that I never really have an issue with is rolling the dice on players in the secondary from the 4th, 5th, and or 6th round, because Sean McDermott knows how to damn develop these players. And the new corners coach that we got, Pellegrino from New England, has a resume of getting the most out of some of the best corners I have seen in the NFL. And once they end up leaving New England, that's where they completely fall off of a cliff. I'd probably credit this Pellegrino guy into why Stephon Gilmore was able to revive his career once he went to New England. And I also want to credit him to how he made J.C. Jackson play the position for the New England Pats, right? And then he got traded over to the Chargers, played like absolute horse shit, and then was never the same afterwards. Congrats, Worthy cooked a bust in Elam and cooked backups in that Super Bowl. Let's name him a Hall of Famer. RM56, I don't see Garrett being 2 first-round picks. 1 first and few late round picks is what I'm thinking. Keep in mind, he's going to reach the cursed age of 30. Let me see. I would rather have a healthy Cooper back at a decent price over Adams. I don't think that we're getting Amari Cooper back. I really don't. Like, not unless that nobody else in the NFL really wants him, right? Because one thing I always say, and one thing I have been saying for the past couple of weeks, so Amari Cooper has never been a free agent in his life, ever. Like, he has only ever been traded. From the time that he was drafted by the Raiders, he was traded to the Cowboys, and then he was traded to the Cleveland Browns, and then he was traded to the Buffalo Bills. I think this dude is out for a bag, and I think this dude is going to take the highest bidder. I don't think that Brandon Beane is really prioritizing like wide receiver and free agency this year. So if anyone's hoping or holding on to hope that we could potentially bring back Amari Cooper, I'd be fine with it, I guess. But I just don't see Brandon Beane being the highest bidder when it comes into Amari Cooper. In fact, we can go ahead and just take a look real fast, right? Let's take a look at what his market value would be, right? Market value. Yeah. This is what we would be looking at if this was the case. He's more expensive than Adams. He would be going for a 2-year, $28 million contract, $14.2 million per year. I just don't see it, right? I just don't see it, unfortunately. Let me see. It's way too early to judge Coleman. I will wait till he is in year 3. I agree with you there. I agree with you here. Matthew is saying, Dan, can you shout out Tom Grassi's stream? He is helping children of fallen patriots. Shout out Tom Grassi. He has been streaming for like 15 hours right now. It is $1 million or it is 1 million subscribers. I'm sure all of you are familiar with Tom Grassi. Please go on ahead and give him some love and donate if you can. Let's go. Let's make this happen. Let's make this happen. We have Savannah SCP. Name one Pro Bowler besides Allen that Bean has drafted a real Pro Bowl player. First off, I wouldn't be looking at Pro Bowl, right? Because that's where like a bunch of children and players vote on who sort of gets in, right? At one point, Tamar Hamlin was leading Pro Bowl voting for safety, right? A lot of the times when Tua has been nodded for the Pro Bowl. So, like, I wouldn't even look at Pro Bowlers. I don't care about Pro Bowl. Like, what I do care is about advanced metrics, right? He drafted Christian Benford, who, in my opinion, is probably a top 3 corner in this league right now. As far as DVOA, he was second only to Patrick Surtain. He was one of the best at preventing separation. We have Matt Milano, who has been a multiple-time Pro Bowler. He's been an all-pro. Like, Matt Milano is an absolute dog. Same thing with Taron Johnson. He is one of the best slot corners in the league. He is heavily, heavily slept on at the exact same time, right? Have that. We have Benford. We have Matt Milano. We have Taron Johnson. We have Khalil Shakir, who's been an absolute dog. He's wide receiver number 1. He's slept on as well. We have James Cook, who we ended up drafting in the 2nd round. All of the players that we're concerned about not being able to give a contract to here in 2 years is a good problem to have. I think a lot of people just have recency bias because he missed on Kyer Elam. And then some people think that it's Dalton Kincaid too, but although that he was suffering and playing through an injury all season. So look, I'm okay to criticize Brandon Beane for a couple of 1st-round misses, but to go out there and say that he can't draft, especially when the same people are out here being like, oh my God, man, like, how are we going to re-sign James Cook, Shakir, Benford, Bernard? Like, dude, come on, man. You know what I mean? Like, look, I promise you that we are in a way better position than 95% of the NFL when it comes into drafting. We are a great drafting team. Just a couple of misses here and there within the 1st round. Barron would be a dream for McDermott. He asks a lot out of his DBs, and Jade is a hybrid player. Talk to me by that. Can we talk about the stadium? We want the old stadium converted into a zip line park. I'm not sure what they're going to do with that thing. Hopefully they keep it around. Bears fans aren't happy with Edmonds. I thought that he played pretty well. Barron can play inside or out and safety. He does it all. He will likely go in the 20s. Well, I'll tell you what. We know that this Buffalo Bills team absolutely loves going for secondary players. And that's if we still have a 1st-round pick. Who knows? But then again, we know that Brandon Beane's a little stingy with that. I agree about Jahdae Barron. If he is available at the back end of the 1st, then you need to take him. He is McDermott's slice of pie. He can play anywhere in the secondary. Talk to me about that, bro. Watch Adams go to the Patriots. I wouldn't be surprised. Beane has made a mistake trading for Diggs when he should have taken. So the thing is that hindsight is 2020, right? Like, hindsight is 2020. So I feel like you guys like really throw a lot of criticism on something that there was no way of being able to predict. The only way that you can guarantee production, and you can't even guarantee it either way, but the safest way to guarantee production is the trade for a player that has showed that they can put up that sort of production. And at that point, that was Stephon Diggs, right? No one knew that that player in Justin Jefferson was going to take the world by storm. Sure, we could roll the dice and hope for the best, but like, how many times have we had like a crazy wide receiver, highly touted wide receiver rate within the draft process be an absolute bust? Like, we could look at Burks from Tennessee. Like, we can look at so many different wide receivers that had like a big name attached to him. Like, oh my God, dude, like, he's going to be a world beater. And he turned out to be bad. Like, that was not a bad move at all. Josh Allen was still very young. And what Josh Allen needed was a veteran wide receiver that he could establish chemistry with a hell of a lot sooner than what a rookie would have, right? Like with Jefferson, let's remember, like he was paired with Kirk Cousins, and that dude was in the league for what, like 9, 10 years once they ended up drafting him in the first place. So I'm not mad at him for going for Stephon Diggs and sending over that draft pick. That's just really not like my overall thought process. Hey, Dan, would you be willing to be a guest on my channel during my charity stream in a couple of weeks? DM me, brother. DM me, brother. Make it happen. Make it happen. Jalen, so Laporta over Kincaid is hindsight. Everything is over hindsight, folks. Everything is over hindsight. And a lot of the development that you see from tight ends is very slow. And I would say that Sam Laporta actually had a down year compared to his rookie season as far as his production. Will they trade Milano and Von Miller to keep getting rid of the injury prone? Probably not. Hi, Dan Mitchell. What's up, Alex Williams? Hope all is well. Even the Eagles took Rieger over Jefferson. Best front offices have misses. 110%, guys. What 110%? Like, so hindsight is always 2020. Always. I personally was happy when Brandon Beane decided to go for Stephon Diggs because we needed that for Josh Allen. He was a young quarterback that desperately needed a vet wide receiver where he could establish chemistry with almost immediately. So I'm not upset with that. I don't believe in a first-round tight end. We have believe, don't waste Davante. I have a feeling he'll complain like Diggs when he doesn't get the ball. That's why Cooper was pretty good. He didn't complain. I have never really seen any like news whatsoever or rumors about Adams being that guy with Stephon Diggs. I wonder what old F we going to get this free agency and overpay for it. All right, dude. We have Havana's very upset with this Buffalo Bills organization, man. He is mad with Brandon Beane. But don't worry. So news is that he's getting fired and I'm taking over, baby. So don't worry about that. Bills fans clueless what McDermott picking defensive players. Bills fans clueless that McDermott's picking defensive players. LOL. I have no idea what you mean. We knew the Eagles were dumb trying to take Rieger over Jefferson, but they got the last laugh because they got both Brown and Devontae Smith. You have Jamal Jones. Get some bench players to fill out the roster and get a star pass rusher. That is what I have been saying for, I would say, almost all offseason. Everyone wants trade. We can upgrade our team with young draft picks over all the veteran minimum guys we've had to bring in to fill the roster because we are in cap hell. We are in a better situation than last year, but yeah, it's not ideal. Yeah. Anyway, teams outside of Buffalo, look at the Bills front office is very good for whatever that is worth. It's very easy to be mad, like from the fan base, right? Like say that I were to poll each and every single fan base, I think that bare minimum, we would see about 15% of fans wanting like massive changes, right? Like I'm sure that I could probably find some Washington Commanders fans that wanted to change right within the front office when they lost, right in the NFC Championship. I'm sure that there was several that wanted the Cincinnati Bengals to change up. I'm sure that there were several that wanted the Chiefs to change up, like right after losing. It's easy to be emotional. It's really easy to be emotional. But like one thing that I think is a very hard pill to swallow is that like there are 31 losers each and every single year right within an NFL season. There are 31 losers. So it's I don't know. Plague Dan. And so do you think we move on from James Cook and draft his replacement right in the draft, or do we pay him? I think that we'll ultimately end up agreeing to a deal, but I don't think it's going to be $15 million. I think it's going to be closer to about 10, maybe 11 a year for like a 3-year contract. So McDermott picks, so the D players not hard. So the front offices have the final say with GM, and Sean McDermott certainly has a say. I'd probably try to like scale down your confidence, like when you try and say something, especially when you're wrong. So I'd go on ahead. it's not McDermott who makes the final call. It is Brandon Beane. And he obviously talks to Sean McDermott about what he wants, but it's Brandon Beane who fills those rosters. That's why there was such a controversy right between Brian Flores and the front office over in Miami, because they drafted Tua and he didn't want Tua right in the first place. So I wouldn't be as confident right within your overall takes, especially when you were so blatantly wrong. Let me see. $12.5 million a year for Cook with bonuses. I'm fine with that. Like, that's fine with me. 15's a bit crazy. Let me see. Zulu is coming. Yeah, we definitely need another expensive, washed out player. We have TR is coming in. We should trade that Josh Allen guy. Heard he is overrated. I wouldn't say that. Horn Hunter is saying there isn't anything wrong with the offense. Scoring 30-plus points every game is winning most games. Giving up 30 points won't win the Super Bowl. Bills fan for life is coming in. Dan, if we get outbidded for Garrett, and so the Raiders chose not to trade Crosby, and we are forced to draft a pass rusher, who are your top 3 pass rushers in this draft? Oh, man. Who do I like? All right. I love Mike Green. He's out of Marshall. I'm not entirely sure that he'd fall to us, though. Shamar Stewart out of Texas A&M. I really like him. And then we also have an Ole Miss edge rusher, Princely. I am not even going to attempt to pronounce his last name. Please give me a couple of weeks. I will get it done. But it's Mike Green, number 1. And then number 2, it's going to be Shamar Stewart, right out of Texas A&M. And then number 3 is a guy named Princely out of Ole Miss, who is an absolute dog. Buffalo Chacon is saying Buffalo hopefully draft Oregon defensive lineman Derek Harmon and Michigan defensive tackle Kenneth Grant. I know a lot of people are very high on Derek Harmon. A lot of people. Let me see. Respectfully, can we leave Lil Mo Mozzarella in the 24-25 season? Love all fans, but this guy needs to go. We have Connor. He doesn't want Mo Mozzarella anywhere near our fan base anymore. Interesting. And did you look at Jared Ivey from Ole Miss? He was there, but I'll tell you what, his counterpart in Princely was a lot better. Josh and our offensive line carried the offense. We need another piece, but defense is number 1 priority. We have Abdul Carter, Mike Green, and James Pierce Jr. So Abdul Carter is going to be gone in like the first 5 picks. So he's not even on my list. But thank you. Okay. Princely, Uman Mielen. Princely Uman Mielen. Princely Uman Mielen. Wow. Damn. As a Duck fan, not huge in Harmon in round 2. Oh my God. Boys would want a ridiculous price for Parsons. He wouldn't even fit our defense either. I think 5 draft picks should be on the defensive side. I believe that's more than likely where we're going to go. But all right, guys. Thank you so much for tuning in to another edition of Dom Mafia Live, powered by BetUS. As a reminder, this topic today was that the Buffalo Bills are betting favorites for Adams. I am not a big proponent of this. I don't think that we need to be spending our money on another wide receiver. I think that we can get either a Hollywood Brown in free agency for much cheaper, or we can just go to the draft, where I think that there is a lot of speed. Love each and every single one of you. Thank you so much for tuning in, as you always do. Smash that like button, subscribe to the channel, and turn on bell notifications. And I will see you later this afternoon on BetUS TV's The Huddle. And then I will also end up seeing you later on my afternoon stream. Thank you so much. Love each and every single one of you. And we'll see you next time. Deuces.